If you're a financial advisor or life insurance agent that is struggling with digital marketing, do you feel like you're posting content and only getting a like here or a view here or a view there, and it's not translating into actual appointments on your calendar? Are you struggling to get that like, know, and trust that people want to come back for more content, where you're going to want to stick around for this week's episode of the Digital Advisor Weekly?
Welcome to the Digital Advisor Weekly broadcast. Looking to boost your business with the latest trends, innovative tech, and must-have resources? Join us to discover how to successfully scale your practice and automate the process. Here to guide you is your host, the dynamic leader of Advisor Marketing Hub and managing partner at American Financial, Rob Sousa.
Did you know over 500 hours of video is uploaded to YouTube every minute, and 90% of it gets lost in the algorithm, buried by other videos that are actually optimized to show up in the search engine when people are browsing? Now, if you've taken the time to create a video and has lots of great information, content, personality, and you find yourself in that 90%, it's frustrating. If you'd like to show up in that 10%, I want to encourage you that it is possible. And today we're going to be sharing a success story of one of our advisors, Curt Arnold, who started broadcasting just 3 months ago. And he's going to talk about and share his story with you, his journey of the tools that he used, the technology, the strategy, and the virtual assistants that he used to go from 0 views in his first broadcast to hitting 2,000 views in week 8. So with no further ado, let's get started.
Well, thanks, Rob. I'm really looking forward to sharing my journey with you and your audience today.
Well, we are glad to have you. We've been talking a little bit about you in the last few episodes, so
a couple cameos.
Great for the opportunity to sit down and hear your story from the mouth of babes, so making me look a little old here, but appreciate you joining us. We're not going to just talk about numbers and statistics. We're going to talk about actual strategy, the path that you took to get there, softwares you used, the strategy that you applied, and then also the virtual assistant team that you used to implement to create consistent broadcasting on a regular basis.
There's a lot going on, but can't do it without all those different pieces.
All right, well, let's dive right in. All right, Curt, so give me a little bit of backstory, because I know you, a little secret about you, 20 years ago, you started your career in the broadcast industry. So tell us a little bit about that and then your journey to where you are today.
Yes, I actually went to school for journalism. So I started my career on TV as a TV sports anchor reporter. So I was out, covering high school athletes, professional athletes. I was on the sidelines, shooting video, editing it quick to get on the newscast. So I used to do that, 20 years ago, and it feels like a lifetime ago, but it's something that I did a long time ago and have a lot of memories from.
And so what's it like, fast forward 20 years later, getting back into broadcasting? What were those first few moments like for you?
Yeah, so like during the pandemic, I was looking for a way to kind of stand out a little bit, because what can you do to really attract people? And we were stuck behind closed doors back then. So I was like, what can I do? And so I kind of said, hey, I have these other skills that are kind of dusty. I could dust off and start using again. And so I said, well, why don't I start making some videos to teach on topics? That way I'm getting content in front of people. So I was like, well, I'm going to start making a video. And the first video I was going to make was a founder story, so to speak, which is basically like my why of why I want to be in this industry, how I want to help people. And I kind of talked about my family. And I didn't even tell people I was going to do the video, because I was like, okay, I don't even know if I remember how to do all these things. So let me get used to the technology. Let me figure out what I have to use and how to make it work good. And then once I get it made, I'm going to say, I have this now, and let's find a way to start using it to let people know who I am then.
So I know it's been a creative process coming from a journalism background. Script writing's never been a problem for you, but what has changed in this last year that now you're a proponent of helping others also get into broadcasting who don't have the same background that you do?
Yeah, and it's like the nice thing about broadcasting is it allows me to communicate to people, to teach things that are sometimes complex things, but then make it in a simpler fashion. Because that's, I think our job is like, let's take something that's really hard to understand or hard to put the puzzle pieces together and then make it simpler to understand. And me using video allows me to kind of teach in two ways. There's the audible part of me explaining the concept, but then the visual part too. And I try to find different ways to try to make it easier for them to understand. So if someone's trying to look at how to get started, really it's, just kind of think about, like, if you're in an appointment with a client or a prospect, what would you say to them? Then how could you replicate that so you could actually use it as content marketing to help other people understand some of those things, and then build that know, like, trust, so they can start seeing, hey, this is a person who kind of knows what he's talking about, and maybe I should reach out to this person.
Okay, so you're already overwhelming me, but just circling back, what is the first tool that you think can take those ideas and make it accessible to any advisor?
Yeah, so when I was scrolling on Twitter back in the day before it was X, and I came across OpenAI, and I was like, what is this? This is pretty cool. And I was working a lot of hours back then, so I'm looking for ways to kind of make things quicker for me. And eventually got signed up for ChatGPT long before people were really using it on a regular basis. And that's the number one tool. Like, that should be like your first tool in the toolbox. And what you got to do with that is you got to train it so it knows who you are. Really what that is build a persona. And when you do that, you're basically teaching it who you are. So you're saying, here's who I am as a person. Here's what I believe in. Here's what I value. Here's the type of people I want to work with. And you really just feed it a lot of information so that it kind of gets to know who you are. And the more and more you use it, it starts getting to know you, your persona, so that it'll start creating more content like that you would want. There's different ways to kind of speed that up, but the first thing is we upgraded to the Pro.
Okay.
And we upgraded the Pro, then that allowed us to really put more information into it. And then as I started using it more, I would start saying, okay, here's my target audience. How do I create content that's going to resonate with them? Give me some topics. When I get the topics, and I break it down further with prompting and say, okay, now that I have my topic, how do I teach on this topic? What are some of the things that maybe they want to learn about, or some misconceptions or myths? And then how do I help them, or what's some problems they may have with this, if it's taxes or if it's market volatility. And then I would take that and just keep prompting. And you just basically just think of it like it's a person sitting next to you. You're just asking it more questions, back and forth, back and forth. And sometimes you won't get what you want, but you'll get more experience with prompting. Eventually you'll get better at asking the right question then.
Right. So that can implement a lot of the strategy you use that you learned back in your degree. So obviously that's formulaic, and ChatGPT can handle that. Now, how do we take it to the next level and personalize it so that your personality comes out and it doesn't sound like somebody else's copywritten script from ChatGPT?
Yeah, that's what I hear a lot of people say too. Is like, it's gonna be the same as everybody else, and that's because they're missing the biggest part. Is if you can train it with the persona, then it's going to start thinking and delivering content like you. And what I've done is then once I kind of say, okay, I kind of know what I want, but I have to feed it enough information with prompts, and then I'll keep digging for more and digging for more and digging for more. And then I might say, okay, put that back together now that we have all the things we want. Or I might say, let me learn more about this, and it'll go give me more information and say, okay, I want to add that to the mix. So like right now I'm building an estate planning seminar, and I wanted to find some other things to add to it that maybe I was missing. So I said, what are some things that people are searching for, some myths and things like that? And it would go find that for me. Now, what I like to do too is I don't want it to be boring vanilla content.
Right.
So I try to add personality. And one thing AI doesn't have is a personality, but we can train it to think like us more. So you have to prompt it. So what I'll do is I'll say, I want it to share me a fun way I can explain this concept. I might say, explain it like I explain it to a fifth grader. So it's very easy to understand. What is a visual way I can explain this concept? So last week's episode of my show, what we did is I actually went and bought some buckets from Hobby Lobby, labeled them taxable, tax deferred, tax free, bought some play money, some movie set money. I literally showed putting money into the bucket like we're contributing. I literally showed we're making a distribution. And when we take a distribution, of course, a lot of times we got to pay tax. Then I had to pay Uncle Sam as well. So I was showing the ins and outs so people can understand why it's so important to understand the tax code, but it was a visual to help them understand that.
Right. Right.
And then you've seen some of the other things I'm doing too, and I'm trying to say, add some flavor, add some personality. And I sometimes will say, give me a pop culture reference or something. And sometimes it doesn't give me what I want right away, but it'll brainstorm for me to go, okay, I don't like that idea, but now I have an idea that I want to use.
Kind of like the Home Alone episode.
Correct. Yeah. So Home Alone, one of my favorite movies. My daughter and I will probably watch that about 10 or 15 times pretty soon here. And I probably can recite almost every line in the movie. And there's a scene in the movie where Kevin McAllister goes to the grocery store, and he goes grocery shopping and gets a bunch of items, and it's all under $20 after his $1 coupon. And I said, I was like trying to think, how do I show and visualize inflation to somebody other than saying it's going to cost more? Because it costs more. So I literally went to Walmart and I walked around the store with his grocery list, and I purchased the things that he bought and tried to see how much it would cost today, which was about $48 compared to his $19, to show them, here's how much things go up over time. And it's like a slow moving target, but I wanted them to see, this is something you've seen before from a movie. Now let me show you how much that would cost today, and that's inflation.
And everybody's seen Home Alone, and they connect the visuals with what you're trying to teach. It's genius. But instead of talking about it, let's go ahead and show a clip from that week's episode.
To help illustrate how inflation impacts us over time, I set out on a little recon trip to a grocery store. One of my favorite movies is Home Alone. Now there's a scene in the movie where 8-year-old Kevin McAllister goes grocery shopping. Remember, this movie came out in 1990. I recreated his shopping list to see how much it would cost today in 2024. So let's remember what was on Kevin's list. He had a half gallon of milk, a half gallon of orange juice, toilet paper, a TV dinner, bread, frozen mac and cheese, laundry detergent, fabric softener, cling wrap, and toy soldiers.
Are those TV dinners any good?
I don't know.
Let's give it a whirl. For the kids. Hold on, I have a coupon. It was in today's paper.
1983.
Wait a minute. Those are 1990 prices. Let's check out what today's total would be. Today's total would be $45.70 plus sales tax for a grand total of $48.90. So after Kevin's $1 coupon, that makes it $47.90. With prices rising that high, we don't want to say, keep the change, you filthy animals.
What a great clip. It's one of my favorite of all time that you've created with the Home Alone, but you have some other doozies as well. And so we're going to show a few more of those here in just a moment. But I want to kind of talk about the journey of like what technology you've figured out to use to be able to broadcast on a weekly basis without it taking over your advisory business. Because at the end of the day, you still have to be a financial advisor. You still have to prospect, planning meetings, all of those sorts of things you need to be teaching. Of course, broadcasting can be teaching. But what are some of the technologies aside from ChatGPT, or what other things can be done with ChatGPT or other tech you use? Most importantly, to systematize so that there's consistency where you're putting out content on a regular basis, not taking over your business, but also, most importantly, bringing your personality into it. Because that's really what I want to showcase today, because you definitely have some of the most creative episodes that I've seen in the advisor broadcasting world.
Yeah, so I mean, we use obviously a lot of the different tools. The Better Automate is one of the things that we use that will help us with making sure we're putting content out regularly. I know when you're thinking about it, like if you're an advisor, it's like, hey, I got enough on my plate. How am I going to do all this stuff? And that's where the VAs, they're trained up on Better Automate. They know they'll take my content. What we do is we create a weekly content document each week of what we're going to talk about with the show, and then they'll turn that into blogs, they'll turn it into emails, they'll turn it into video clips and all kinds of different things, and then so they'll have stuff out there regularly. When we're thinking about different show ideas, sometimes we'll use ChatGPT once we know the persona and the kind of the brand that we're looking for, and we can use that to kind of get some ideas. There's a new tool we started using recently called VidIQ Pro. It's really kind of a cool system where it's an SEO optimized thing that's looking for what people are searching for, that has the least amount of content in those areas. So kind of supply demand thing. And it's going to optimize my videos with titles and different keywords and things so that people will watch it. And we've seen a lot of increase in viewers with that. And then we also can go in there and start putting in, topic ideas, and it'll recommend, like, here's some topics that maybe are underserved that we can actually create content around, knowing already there's a demand for it.
Now, just to interject here, we were using VidIQ, but then your VA, Marie, wanted to implement the upgraded Pro version.
Yep.
And I want you to tell me the episode before you switched to the episode, your very first episode using VidIQ. What were the numbers in live like you're live streaming? What were the increase in views?
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, we were probably getting 50 views or so. And then a couple of weeks ago, we're probably up to about 900. And we kept saying, hey, let's try to can we get to 1,300 or 1,500? We're kind of pushing what we can do. And then I came up with a topic that I was like, I don't know if I should do it or not. I even went to you and said, I have an idea, but I don't know if it's going to be received well, because it's one of those do not touch list ones. So what I did is I created an episode about the election. And what I did is I showed each candidate, and as far as where they stand on the key issues when it comes to Social Security and Medicare and taxes and inflation and things like that. And so I went with that. They optimized it. And with that, then we actually jumped up to just below 3,000 live views for that show.
That's incredible. It's like you tripled your live views in a matter of a week. Now, some of that could have been topic, right?
Yeah.
But tell me about the other tool, because this blew my mind when we were going over prepping for today's interview. You used another tool that I had not heard of to go out and find the news clips. So you're not just, this candidate said that, and this candidate said that, and people, there's so much spin online these days, you don't know who to trust. And instead of telling people, you showed people. So what tool did you use to find those clips to make kind of your opinion? Yeah. It wasn't even your opinion. It was the facts of, if this comes true, what do you need to know? Or if this candidate gets elected, here's what you need to know.
Yeah, and the idea behind that episode too was I wanted to give straight down the line information. I didn't want it to be slanted on one side or the other. I didn't want to be looking like I was persuading one candidate or the other. I wanted to basically say, if you're a retiree and you're worried about these key issues, here's what they believe for these key issues. And then to make sure that it wasn't biased in any way, which I was very careful because I didn't want it to come off that way, I had to go find either a recorded video, like at a rally or a speaking engagement, debate, or I actually had to get written, quotes from, publications that they said, this is what I believe on. And so then what I did is I used a tool called Perplexity AI, and Perplexity AI really is, for me, become a replacement for Google now.
Yeah. Where
I will ask it, here's what I'm looking for, and it's pretty current, within the last couple of hours even.
Wow.
And it'll search for stuff on the web. And then I actually then prompted it that I wanted video clips of Kamala saying that, saying her views on Social Security. I wanted video clips of Donald Trump talking about his views on taxes, so that I could actually use the clip in the show. So it was extremely accurate. It wasn't like, here's what they said. It was like, this is them actually saying it.
I cannot wait to use this tool, because I just learned this tool from you. These tools come up so quickly. You and I have been sharing when we stumble across something all the time. It's great being a part of Advisor Marketing Hub, because advisors are sharing new tools. Our VAs are sharing new tools. VidIQ is something Marie brought to the table. One of our VAs, which we have to give a lot of credit to our VA team that's gone out of their way to find some of these tools for us. But can you give me the distinguishable difference between Perplexity AI and Google has Gemini and there's Copilot? What's the difference in using Perplexity versus some of these other AIs in search engine?
In Perplexity too, you can create a login, and so they can start remembering some things too. And it's about prompting too, and it's about it. But the nice thing about Perplexity is that it's almost like a choose your adventure, where you'll say, I want information about this. And then it starts giving me other questions of, do you want information about this and this?
Oh, that's really cool.
So it'll say, like, I want video clips of Donald Trump talking about his tax plan. And then it'll start suggesting other questions related to that. So you can start going down the adventure trail of other things, which I did, because then it was like, okay, yeah, let me see that one. Okay, then let me see that. And so, because I'm trying to gather intel, so like for me, it was nice because it was all centered in one place.
Yeah.
And then I would just go to the video clips, which I was looking for, like YouTube clips essentially that I could then capture and use. And then I would go find that YouTube clip. And some of these clips were, like local news, I had it, whatever. But I was trying to use whatever I could so they would show exactly what each side was saying.
That's awesome. Show, not tell. So I love that. Talking about showing and not telling, like, we actually want to play a clip of the episode, the election episode that was week before. So man, time's flying. Let's take a look at that clip.
Let's start with Social Security. The Social Security Trust Fund is expected to see a shortfall in about 10 years. Social Security has started notifying beneficiaries on statements in recent years, and if Congress doesn't act, millions of Americans may see cuts to the money they've earned. Trump promises to protect Social Security by growing the economy and says he won't touch the retirement age. Recently, Trump has campaigned getting rid of Social Security taxes.
But I will not cut 1 cent from Social Security or Medicare. And I kept my promise for 4 years, and I will keep it again. And seniors should not pay taxes on Social Security.
Let's pause and reflect on this point. Currently, Social Security benefits are taxed as this. For married couples filing a joint return, if your combined income is $32,000 to $44,000, you'll pay taxes on 50% of your Social Security income. Now, if your combined income is more than $44,000, you can expect to pay on 85% of your benefits. Let's take a look at an example we talked about on a previous episode, the Tax Thompsons. Now, they have $100,000 of total income. They started their Social Security at full retirement age, did not do any proactive tax planning. Over their lifetime, they're going to pay $340,000 of taxes on their Social Security benefit alone, not including RMDs. Kamala Harris says, I believe Social Security is a sacred social contract that we have made with our seniors of America. I will always, as I have always in my career, fight to ensure that seniors have the dignity they deserve and have the protections they deserve, including the benefits they have earned and paid for. Current workers have their income taxed up to the $168,600 mark. Income above that amount is not subject to paying into Social Security. Employees pay 6.2% on all taxable wages, and self-employed individuals pay the full 12.4%. Harris has suggested extending the payroll tax to incomes over $250,000. Just last week, the Social Security Administration announced its cost of living adjustment for 2025 as 2.5%. Remember, we've been teaching that this COLA does not keep up historically with inflation. Harris is advocating for adjusting the COLA using the Consumer Price Index for elderly consumers, which could cause higher annual increases. So let's take a quick review. Trump is advocating for growth. Harris says funding adjustments. An AARP study shows that 48 million American family caregivers provide $600 billion in unpaid care each year, helping loved ones live independent in their homes rather than costly nursing homes. Both candidates say they're looking out for caregivers. Harris, as vice president, has already backed funding to support caregivers and expand Medicare for in-home care. Harris says this cause is personal for her after caring for her own mother as she battled cancer.
I took care of my mother when she was sick. She was diagnosed with cancer. And so it is a personal experience for me as well as something I care deeply about. Plus, for the family to send them to a residential care facility, to hire somebody is so expensive. To your point about being in the sandwich generation, there are so many people in our country who are right in the middle. They're taking care of their kids and they're taking care of their aging parents.
Harris would like to include in-home care in Medicare if possible. She has suggested offering short-term help to give primary family caregivers a break.
Medicare enrollees would be independently evaluated to determine their need for assistance with daily living activities. Trump believes that family support and creating more private care options are key with less federal intervention.
That I will support a tax credit for family caregivers who take care of a parent or a loved one. It's about time that they were recognized, right?
So let's look at the tape again. Expand the support versus expand the options. Let's talk about prescription prices. Ouch. Harris supports expanding and accelerating Medicare's ability to negotiate lower drug prices. She wants to see that more drug prices decrease more quickly.
We capped the price of insulin at $35 a month and the total cost of prescription drugs at $2,000 a year for seniors. And just yesterday, we announced that we are lowering the price by up to 80% for 10 more life-saving drugs.
Trump, on the other hand, has pushed for drug importation from Canada and transparent pricing to reduce costs. Trump's plan would tie Medicare prices for drugs administered in doctors' offices to the lowest prices paid among a basket of economically comparable countries. This was estimated to potentially reduce prices by up to 50% for some drugs. Trump also proposes a $35 monthly cap on insulin costs for Medicare beneficiaries. Let's take a look at our recap. Lower prices through negotiation versus cut costs through competition. Now onto Medicare. Trump says he's protecting Medicare and doesn't plan on changing eligibility or benefits, but favors adding more choices through Medicare Advantage. Trump wants to protect and preserve the program while addressing certain aspects of its management.
So first of all, there is a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting, and in terms of also the theft and the bad management of entitlements, tremendous bad management.
Trump proposes reversing increases made to Medicare Part B premiums during the Biden administration. His campaign is focused on shifting resources to at-home senior care and supporting unpaid family caregivers through tax credits and reduced regulations. Harris is also a protector of Medicare and backs the Inflation Reduction Act to cap out-of-pocket expenses and expand benefits. Currently, Medicare does not offer hearing, vision, and dental, as well as long-term care. Harris proposes a significant expansion of Medicare to cover in-home health care.
We will restructure it so that Medicare covers the cost of in-home health care for your parent so that they can be at home and you can then have the assistance with someone who can help prepare that meal, help them get dressed.
Similar to Social Security, Medicare also faces solvency issues. Trump argues that economic growth and job creation would increase payroll tax revenues, thereby supporting Medicare. Harris said she may support measures like extending the Medicare payroll tax to higher incomes. So in our summary, that's more choice versus more protections. Expect Trump and Harris bring different approaches to the table for Social Security, Medicare, inflation, and more. Which ideas make the most sense to you? Remember, knowledge is power, especially in retirement.
So both the video clips that we just watched are amazing examples of how creative you can be and not just talking to an empty camera. Because that's hard sometimes, especially when we're helping advisors get started on video broadcasting. It's hard to talk into a phone, nobody on the other side, it's responding to you. But what made you choose format for marketing? And then why live broadcasting?
So obviously it's a natural way for me to do it with my background in journalism and being on TV. I always thought of it as it's a way to really kind of show people the know, like, trust, because they can see you talking about the subjects. You can start building credibility because they can see you too. Like, I don't think it comes across the same if you just have like a written blog or something. It just doesn't do as much, and anybody can do that now. So it comes across differently. They can look at you and see some sincereness and genuineness, and then with the video, then it allows me to show some personality too. So like the likable stuff. And what I try to do is I don't want it to be boring, because I mean, nobody wants to hear boring. I even did a Social Security seminar. I'm like, I don't want this to be boring today. And so we try to add some different fun things in that too.
Okay, I have to stop you. You have to repeat really quickly. I know we're running out of time, but the comment you made today, that in order to claim your spouse's Social Security, you have to be married for how many years?
You talking about divorcee or?
Divorcee.
10.
So 10 years. So you have to repeat that part after your comment.
So obviously, yeah. So I said, if for some reason you're thinking about calling it quits and you're at 9.5 years, just hang on a little bit longer, because it'll make a little bit of difference.
And the room busted out in laughter. And so it was a great moment in the show to bring just some personality and fun and entertainment into it.
And I even used the Home Alone clip in the show too, or the seminar today too, because we were trying to show how cost of living adjustments on Social Security don't always pace inflation. So when you make your decision for Social Security, you have to take in consideration, what is this amount going to be down the road? What is the expenses going to be down the road? So you have to understand that. And so then I said, hey, as an example, let's look at Kevin McAllister as he can explain that. And of course, they kind of laughed as they saw me walking around the store with your shopping cart trying to be Kevin McAllister too.
Right. And the one thing that I try to encourage our viewers, our advisors, life insurance agents, is it's important, if you're going to do broadcasting, video content, to just get started, be yourself and be authentic. And it doesn't need to be polished, because sometimes when it's too polished, it's like too good to be true, it's too staged, it's fake, it's not real. And what I like about your sense of humor and your broadcast style, even in today's live workshop, we had tech problems with your video, and you have a great way of just laughing it off, making jokes about it, just keeping people entertained while we fixed the tech issues and moved on.
I told them it was an amazing video. I wish you could have seen it.
And then we finally got it to work and they got to see it, right?
So I kind of like told them what they were going to see, and then I was like, oh, we can actually watch it now. Let's watch it.
Yes. And so don't be afraid to make mistakes. If anything, making a mistake and laughing at yourself. One of my favorite books from a comedian, Kat Timpf, wrote a book, and I wish I could remember the name, and I can't at the moment. Sorry, Kat, I'll put it in the show notes. But the whole book is about, if you want to be a good broadcaster, comedian, even just a healthy person, you got to be willing to laugh at yourself. Mm-hmm. If you make a mistake, you make everybody else more comfortable if you're willing to make a joke about yourself or laugh at yourself, because none of us are perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a guy that's trying to smile and have fun. Like, even when I was managing banks back in the day, we'd have some days where it'd get boring and stressful, and I went and did a cartwheel in the middle of the lobby, which they thought was hilarious, because obviously all my stuff fell out of my pockets, my keys and stuff, and they thought it was hilarious that I did a cartwheel. I did it just because I knew it would make them laugh and it would break up the tension a little bit, and then everyone's kind of like, yeah, this is fun. And one night we even had it was like the bank closed, we turned on the music full blast, we had a dance party for 5 minutes.
That's fantastic. And I don't mean to steal the spotlight in your interview, but one of my new business partners who is taking over our brokerage firm, he interviewed 29 years ago, and as a 21-year-old, he had dreadlocks, came in board shorts and rainbow sandals into the office, and he's taking a typing test. And I'm not talking about a computer typing test. I'm talking about a typewriter typing test. And 3 minutes into the typing test, the power goes out in the whole building. And it's dead silent. And out of nowhere, this guy who's only known us for 5 minutes yells, "Sorry, my bad." Everybody in the place busted up. And of course, he got the job. And he's been entertaining us ever since. And so that's the sort of thing, it's like bringing that lightness of just like joking around, not taking yourself seriously.
And I think what's important for people to understand too is when you're looking to, if a retiree or whomever is looking to hire someone like us to help them, they're looking to have a relationship with someone who can guide them through these different things. And so then obviously you're going to be talking to that person a couple times a year. You're going to be guiding them through some of their most hardest times of their lives. You know, if they lose a spouse or if they, you know, their kid's sick or they're whatever, there's a lot of things you're going to be guiding them through. And so they want to make sure that's a person they like.
Right.
And there's going to be times when we're going to be laughing together, and there's going to be times we're going to be crying together, but they don't want it to be just boring, like, yes, here's your statement. What do you question? You know, they don't want that. They want a person.
Right.
And so they're not hiring a financial advisor, they're advising a person who can advise them.
They're hiring someone who they feel like cares about them enough to be considered a friend, because an advisor, consultant is just going to give you information.
Mm-hmm.
But an advisor who's hired for the relationship is somebody you believe will fight for you. They care enough about you that they feel like you would go to bat for them. Yeah. You'd go the extra mile. You'd fight for them because you care about them and their story. And in order to do that, they have to fall in love with your story.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to get on video and in a real vulnerable way share your own story.
And I kind of shared it today in the seminar too. Like, my dad was trying to retire. He worked hard. Like, he had a laborer's job, and at the time he was going to retire, he needed shoulder surgery. He had both knees replaced, and he was trying to hang on and try to stuff as much money away as he could in retirement. My mom had to retire early because she had some health issues, so he was just trying to hang on and try to save as much as he could. And then he wanted to retire, but he didn't know how to retire because he didn't have access to video podcast or broadcast. He didn't have access to seminars to go watch.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really the internet, even as far as going online to try to research, like, when do I start Social Security? There wasn't those things. So I think of my dad too and saying, okay, there's other people like my dad out there that need someone to give them some education that can help them. And they might not even know what to ask or what they don't know about, but if I can illuminate some things for them that maybe go, oh, I didn't think about that. Like, even today we're talking about Social Security. Most of the room did not know if you call Social Security, they cannot advise you on when to start your Social Security. They were shocked by that. They didn't know that.
Can't they just tell me when to take my Social Security?
So they think, well, and then they kept trying to, challenge me. And like, no, they can't, because they legally cannot give financial advice. So they can answer a question, but if you ask the wrong question, you're going to get the wrong answer.
Yeah.
And so with doing video, it's a way to kind of help find different things that people are looking for with my audience and teach it, but don't be boring about it. Have some personality and some flavor so they go, you know what? I just spent 5 minutes learning about Social Security, but it was kind of fun, so. And that's what we did with the Social Security episode. I dressed up like Howie Mandel, had the bald head, and used some Snapchat filters my daughter helped me with. And I kind of used the analogy, like, if when you're going to get your Social Security, it's like a deal or no deal. You're going to call Social Security and say, here's what you are offered, and you can accept it or not.
Right.
And if you don't accept it, you pick a different briefcase, which is a different year. And so that was the analogy behind that one. And it was just like, I was trying to think of how would I explain that in a fun way, because Social Security is kind of boring. So,
It is.
So how do I explain it?
And when you anchor it to something memorable, it's easier for people to recall. The statistics are really bad. When people come to a masterclass, workshop, webinar, they remember a very small percentage of the educational information. But the parts they remember most are the parts where you anchored it to some sort of entertainment or relating to a story. And interesting piece, we started working together, it's maybe been 5-6 years, and we met online, networking together in marketing groups. You were working at another company at the time, and people kept asking me, hey, that guy who you interviewed who came on the coaching session. What's his name? The guy who adopts the dogs and rescues dogs. That guy, the dog guy.
Yeah.
And I got that from like a dozen people. So they couldn't remember nothing personal, anything you actually taught that day.
Yeah.
But they sure remember the impact that you made on, and your passion and your family's passion for rescuing dogs and fostering them.
Yeah, and what happened with that, it was the pandemic. We're sitting at home, and I saw a news story on TV that said they were worried that all these animals were going to get left behind because we had to stay at home. And so these animals were stuck in shelters, or they're in even worse places. And so we're like, what can we do to help as a family? And my wife and I were thinking, it's like, well, this would be a fun way to volunteer and then maybe show the kids some responsibility and help them do something that's good. So we thought, well, let's try a dog and see how it happens. We had a Pomeranian that was scared to death of us at first because she, went through some crazy stuff. But what we did is it turned out to be a family venture where we ended up helping 30 dogs, rescue them from bad situations and then get them adopted into forever homes. Mm-hmm. And then I started posting pictures of the dogs and videos of the dogs on my social media because I wanted them to help get adopted. But then I also became part of, I was trying to show people what I am as a person too, what I believe in, what I'm passionate about. And that's where that whole rescue retirement came from, is from the dogs first. And then I said, you know what, let's take that further now. This is my brand. Let's show how retirees, how we can rescue them from these different pitfalls of retirement, taxes, volatility, all those things. So it started with dogs, and we're looking to get some dogs going again here too. But it also then developed into a brand that I could use that is memorable now, where people go, hey, this is what he's trying to do.
The dog guy created a retirement rescue broadcast, and you wasn't even on your radar from 4 months ago.
Correct.
And 30 days later, he launches a brand. Your first episode, you probably had 3 viewers, and one of them was me. 8 weeks later, he's now at 3,000 live views, and then maybe another 1,000 views after that in replay. It's been quite the journey.
Yeah, and when you first start too, you have to know there's not going to be many people watching it first, and that's okay.
Right.
And it's about, most people are going to quit and say, okay, it's not for me, it's too much work, it's not, not worth it. But you just keep going. It's like, just keep swimming,
Just keep swimming.
So make it, the VAs do a really good job because they'll take my shows and then they optimize it now. So we're getting more and more viewers. We're finding other topics that we want to do that are going to be resonating with our audience. They'll take my show and they'll divide it up into little video shorts, YouTube shorts and Facebook Reels and all kinds of stuff. And we'll get it all over. It's all over the place.
It is crazy what they do. And I know we're running long today, but I'm from California and Curt's in Florida, and maybe 3 or 4 times a year I get the opportunity to do an interview. So hang in there with us. I'm telling you, what I've learned from Curt, what others have learned from Curt, it's worth your time. But before we wrap up, I do want to give a nod to our VA team. Yep. And so to our viewers, it may seem like it's overwhelming to start video. It's overwhelming to do broadcasts. I don't want to spend this much time each week. But in reality, we've got it down to a system, our team, where if you just spend an hour a week recording, hand it over to our VA team that's trained in all these softwares. How has that allowed you to launch your business and then automate your marketing without you spending 10, 20 hours a week?
Yeah, and first, before I even talk more about them, they're fantastic people. They work really hard and they're extremely talented. And I mean that. They're really talented. This was made by them. They're really talented. So we'll come up with an episode for a show, and I'll create a weekly content document and say, here's all the different things we're going to be doing for promotion and different things. They'll take that. There's one VA that's working on my LinkedIn, helping me, get stuff out on LinkedIn, finding other ways to connect with people. We have another one that will go and kind of splice up my videos into promotions. We have one that will go and do blog posts and emails, scraping leads and different things. All that's happening though when I'm sleeping, because they're like 12 hours difference from us. So when I'm getting ready to go to sleep, I see them popping online and they start working while I'm sleeping. Then I wake up, all this stuff is done. It's almost like magic. It's like, poof, it's all done, because they're doing this while I'm working. or while I'm sleeping, and now these things are all done, and I don't have to worry about it. It's all done.
That's fantastic. And we do, as we wrap up, in order to convince the viewers that we actually struggle through a lot of the times recording, and sometimes you're tired and framing thoughts in words. So just for fun, we thought we'd try and show a little bit of behind the scenes, hopefully a few bloopers. So we're going to do a quick little 30-second clip of Curt behind the scenes.
Been a fan, long time listener, first time visitor. Gotta use a southern accent. I'm down in the south now.
Y'all? All right, well, let's dive right in. Okay, so we're on the outro. Okay, it's part of the
ambiance.
Part of the authenticness, right?
That's right.
Okay, Land O'Lakes, Florida. Segment 1. Okay, there you go. So it's not like the interview yesterday, so. All right,
Marie, do your magic.
Well, Curt, thank you for entertaining us. Thank you for sharing about your show. And speaking of your show, I know that we have the information, but go ahead, give it a quick plug and tell them where they can go to watch it.
I feel like I'm on the Jay Leno show or something here. It's a quick plug. Yeah, so Retirement Rescue Weekly is live every Thursday, 11 a.m. on the East Coast, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. You can actually go to retirementrescueweekly.com, or you can go to LinkedIn or YouTube and actually click follow, and you'll get alerted when there's new episodes and things like that. And if you want to get caught up on the other episodes, this is, I think, week number 13. So we have 12 in the bag, is what they say in the industry.
Yep.
So you can go back and watch some of those other ones, including some of the ones we showed clips on today.
Yes, absolutely. And for any of the other resources that we talked about today, so all of the software, Better Automate, VidIQ, what was the new one you brought to me today? Perplexity. And we have a bunch more. Seamless, Automate, Alfred Automate. I could go on and on and on. And it'll all be in the show notes.
And we were talking in the parking lot last night too. Like, some of these tools we were using a couple years ago, we're not using anymore.
Right.
Because we just keep trying to find what's going to be the best. And we've personally paid for a lot of these tools so that you don't have to, because we'll test it out and see if it makes sense for what we're trying to do for our space, for the advisor space.
Right.
And then if it does make sense, then we're going to start using it, and we'll tell you how to use it for you then.
Yeah. So instead of wasting time trying to figure out a tool, these tools are the tools listed in the show notes, or the tools we train our team on. And we've been testing them, but they're being used by our advisors across the country. And so we wouldn't recommend a tool that we just checked out and we're doing some sort of affiliate promotion. These are the tools we actually use every single week. So if you want more about those, you can click on those in the show notes. We're not affiliated, again, don't get any affiliate fees. And then, of course, if for any reason you're starting to think about doing broadcast, I encourage you to schedule a 15-minute call. It's schedule15minutes.com, and ask whatever questions that you have. I'd be happy to give you any referrals, advice, and help you come up with a plan that works for you. But I encourage you to just get started and just try. And it's the only way you'll get better each week, and eventually you'll start to build your own audience. And it's a journey, and it will be well worth it as you build that know, trust. It'll begin to create a marketing system that can develop regular leads and referrals, because people watch something entertaining, and then
I think it's the new referral, because if you create a piece of content that someone watches and they like it, you'll oftentimes say, you know what, my uncle might appreciate this. And we were actually just speaking to a gentleman earlier today. He's like, I think my brother might have made a mistake. He needs to learn some of this stuff. And so the video is really nice, because someone finds that video, they can just go send it off on the socials or to the email, and then they can actually share that content with them. So that's the digital referral these days.
No doubt. And I've had people approach me and make comments about, hey, I saw your show, or I saw Curt's show the other day. I didn't even know he was doing a broadcast. So yeah, it's super viral, easy to share, and that's what's great. If you want to check out Digital Advisor Weekly, Remember, every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 East Coast, and you can go to the digitaladvisorweekly.com and register so that you get the notification reminder each week, or go to YouTube and subscribe, just like Curt's show. But we'll keep this about Curt. I encourage you, if you want lessons, ideas on how to do your show, following his show actually will inspire you with new creative ideas. And so I encourage you to watch his show just for creativity purposes, and it'll spark new creative ideas for you that maybe we haven't thought of ourselves. And if you start a show, I also encourage you to reach out to us on social and invite us to follow your show so we can support you like you have supported us. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. Catch us next week for the Digital Advisor Week.